Alright guys, it is your boy Ryan Thomas here, and today I'm going to be comparing two of literally my favourite phones, my favourite modern smartphones at the moment. These two phones are my favourites, they're tied first place for me. They might not be for you, they might be different, but this is my opinion, these are my views on the OnePlus 3 versus the iPhone 6s Plus. Now firstly, although a lot of people have mentioned it in the comment section of my other videos, I am going to be comparing these price-wise. I mean, the OnePlus 3 when it came out was exactly half the price of the iPhone 6s Plus when it came out. In fact, it might have been a little bit cheaper than half price, but I'm just going to base it off half price already. That is a huge thing to take into consideration. Okay, so a lot of these actually have quite similar specs. Now, the iPhone has a 5.5-inch IPS display up front, which is 1080p, and the OnePlus 3 has a 5.5-inch AMOLED display, but that is 1080p. So the same size, the same resolution, but obviously a different display technology. Now, I do prefer the one on the OnePlus 3. It's more vibrant, and obviously the AMOLED means you've got deeper blacks. It can also be more power efficient if you're using the right kind of themes and backgrounds. And overall, I just feel like it's a slightly better display. The iPhone 6s Plus is just as crisp, obviously being the same resolution, same pixel density, and it's an absolutely fabulous display. I don't see why people are putting these phones down as not having, 1440p displays. I think they look absolutely crisp in 1080p, but just letting you know there isn't any 1440p or 4K action going on here. Also, the iPhone 6s Plus came out in September of 2015 and the OnePlus 3 came out in June of 2016, meaning there is a bit of a difference in age. What about the build quality then? Well, both of these phones are full metal construction with a glass front. I think I prefer the OnePlus 3's angular design. I just do. I really like the flat edges and stuff. Not to say that the 6s Plus is any less appealing, but it is definitely more slippery in the hand because you haven't got anything on the sides. It's kind of just a wraparound side and very flat back. It's less ergonomic, but both equally as premium. Both of these phones have their charging ports respectively on the bottom, with USB-C on the OnePlus 3 and Lightning on the iPhone 6s Plus. They've both got their headphone jacks on the bottom as well. They've both got mute switches, although the OnePlus 3 has three-way instead of the iPhone's two-way. They've also got volume rockers on the left and lock buttons on the right, as well as nothing on the top. The OnePlus 3 can have two SIMs and the iPhone 6s Plus can only really have one. Obviously, just quickly before I move on, the displays, you are getting that Force Touch on the iPhone 6s Plus. I almost skipped over that, that's how little I used it on my phone, but that's very true. Like, you do have that over the OnePlus 3's kind of just standard fixed display. Okay, for OSs then. Well, the OnePlus 3 runs the newest version of Android, which is on Oxygen OS. So Oxygen OS is not really a skin, more of just a redo of Android. It is based on Android, but it is technically its own OS, but it does run Marshmallow, and I think I really like it. It basically feels like stock Android, like a Nexus, whereas the iPhone 6s Plus has the newest iOS. I believe it's iOS 9.3 or something similar. It runs everything really smooth. It's basically the best iPhone you can get. Just for spec comparisons, you're going to get a dual core, that's 2-core 1.8 GHz chip on the iPhone with 2 GB of RAM, and in the OnePlus 3 you're getting a quad-core chip, the Snapdragon 820 namely, with 6 GB of RAM. Both of these multitask really well, and I wouldn't worry about the 2 GB of RAM in the iPhone because it is so power efficient. So you can't go after me about saying, 2 GB of RAM isn't enough. For iOS it really is because of power efficiency, but 6 GB of RAM is really great on the Android side of things. Okay, for cameras, you've got a 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone 6s Plus and a 16 megapixel camera on the OnePlus 3. They both have phase detection autofocus, optical image stabilization, and you've got a dual tone flash on the iPhone 6s Plus and just a standard single tone LED flash on the OnePlus 3. Both of these phones are able to shoot 2160p, that is 4K at 30 FPS. The iPhone 6s Plus is actually able to shoot 720p at 240 FPS. Whereas the OnePlus 3 can only shoot it at 120, that's half the frame rate. The front cameras, you've got a 5 megapixel camera on the iPhone 6s Plus and an 8 megapixel camera on the OnePlus 3. You've got 1080p at 30 FPS on both, and I believe the iPhone can actually do 720p at 240 FPS on the front camera as well, which is awesome. Now, both of these cameras are absolutely great. For video, I would definitely go with the iPhone. I'm sorry to anyone who is using the OnePlus here. I have got the OnePlus 3 on me, but I do prefer the camera on the 6s Plus. It's just a little bit more smooth. It's a bit quicker at taking photos. The autofocus is just quite a bit better, and the OIS is a little bit crumbly on the OnePlus 3, whereas it's much better on the iPhone 6s Plus. Now also I do like to do a lot of slow motion, and so the camera on the iPhone 6s Plus was ideal. Not to say that the one on the OnePlus 3 wasn't. When you're taking photos, it gives you an awesome amount of space to crop in. 16 megapixels is a decent amount. Fingerprint scanners. These are the two fastest fingerprint scanners I have ever used. Now, like I've said in other videos, I do like having it on the back, whereas both of these phones are at the front where you use your thumb, and I don't think it's quite as good, but let's go into this. So I think they are the fastest ones I've ever used. The thing about it is with the iPhone you have to press a button, whereas on the OnePlus 3 you don't. So I give the OnePlus 3 just a one up on this one. But definitely they are both the fastest fingerprint scanners I've ever used on phones. For battery, you are getting 2,750 milliamp hours on the iPhone 6s Plus, and just around up to 3,000 milliamp hours on the OnePlus 3. Now, battery life is pretty good on both. They're both able to go through a full day, but after a full day, the OnePlus 3 starts to crumble a bit at about halfway through the second day, whereas I managed to get my iPhone to run for like 80 hours, and it's been pretty good. Now, not to say that the battery life on the OnePlus 3 is bad, because it's not. It is actually fairly fantastic compared to phones I've been using nowadays where the battery life is just subpar. This is a great battery life. And obviously with an AMOLED display, if you just set everything to black and the backgrounds to black and the menu items to black, then you are going to get basically the best battery time that you can, because hardly any of the pixels are going to be lit up, which is awesome. Now, you've obviously got fast charging on the OnePlus 3, whereas you don't on the iPhone. And for charging, you can plug it in, go make yourself a cup of tea if you're in the UK, or go get yourself a can of soda, as they say in the Americas, and then come back, and the OnePlus 3 would have gone up by like 20%, which is just awesome, really. It is very quick. Overall, what do I think? Now, obviously, there are loads of different aspects I can go into, way more things I could talk about here, with the button placement and then the Android versus iOS debate and stuff like that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say these two phones are literally top of their class. I've not tried out the S7 yet, but I'm sure that would be up there as well. But these two phones, for me, are the best phones you can buy on the market right now. Obviously, we've got the iPhone 7 coming out soon, and 6s Plus is going to go down in value, so if you want to buy one, I would recommend waiting, because when the new one comes out, the older ones tends to be a little bit cheaper. Now, with the OnePlus 3, obviously this just came out, and this is the newest OnePlus device. We're probably not going to see one for another year, and with that, I would just say, just don't hesitate. It is a great phone. If you love iPhones, wait for the 6s Plus to come down in price. If you like Android phones and you're one of those fanboys and you hate, I should say for both really, vice versa, then just go with the phone you like. These two phones are the best, and you're not really going to get past it. Like I said, I haven't tried out the S7 or some of the newer phones, but they're definitely my favourite phones I've used pretty much so far. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been your boy Ryan Thomas, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.